Jaime Broderick, so excited to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, Nicole. So glad to be here.
Absolutely excited. And this has been a long time coming. We've had to reschedule a couple times, and it's finally the day. So before we jump into the nitty gritty, I would love it if you can just give my listeners a quick overview of how you are serving and supporting your people these days.
Well, things have transformed over the last 2 years. My whole business is online right now. So I used to have a local business support network in the Bucks County, Pennsylvania area, and now I have a global virtual support network called the Success Connection. So that's a membership organization for women entrepreneurs and one guy who just likes what I do. So that's one of the things I do. And that's about playing a higher game and giving people access to people who are playing a higher game. So pushing people along so they can achieve more. I recently launched a New York City Mastermind. It's a small group in this amazing space on 46th Street. So that's a 6-month program. Loving that. And one of my newest ventures is Speakers Who Dare, which is a new speaker platform that I'm doing in collaboration with Trisha Brook.
Fantastic. And so, let's go back way to the beginning when you were quite young, before you were in business and before you were really out of school. If you could think back to your earliest memories, do you remember what you wanted to be when you grew up?
A teacher. I used to torture my neighbor friends with school lessons in my basement at these desks that my dad had brought home. As I got older, I wanted to be a photographer, like sports photography. That was it. I wanted to be on the sidelines at a football game. I thought that was very cool. Or a journalist, or yeah, I think that was pretty much what I wanted to do. But when I was entering into Rutgers for my education, parent guidance said, no money in those things. You need to do computer programming or accounting. All right. So I chose accounting, random thing, which came pretty easily to me. And my accounting career turned into like a 20+ year career in finance, audit, general accounting, and it's a little bit of tax. But the way I survived accounting, because it can be very dry, the way I survived it was all about mentoring my team, putting processes and systems into place, developing new software programs, just improving. So I would go from department to department, taking a mess and turning it into something that was a well-oiled machine, and then training a staff of people. That was always really rewarding for me as well.
The teacher comes out in that way.
It
Yeah.
does. You can teach in a different capacities, right? You don't have to be in a classroom with 5-year-olds or 10-year-olds. You can be teaching people in corporate environment. And now actually I'm teaching entrepreneurs how to build a business. So I'm still teaching.
Yes. So how did that happen, that transition from your career in accounting and financial services to now being self-employed? What was the thing that kicked that off?
Yeah, my last job in a corporate environment was as a controller for White Rose Food. And what ended my career in accounting was moving. So we used to be in New Jersey, and we moved to Kentucky, then to California, and then to Pennsylvania. So during all those transitions, I worked very part-time in for Coopers and Lybrand and other accounting firms in each city. Had my toe in the accounting world. When I finally landed in Pennsylvania, I just started helping friends with their businesses. A lot of people were launching businesses. This was probably 15 years ago. And I did it for fun. And after 3 years of helping, I had 1,100 people come through my events where some of them were the business owners and a lot of them were just the party goers. And I decided that list is powerful. What do we do next? Let's take it to the next level. And I launched a networking event, a networking group called Network Now. I had that for 9 years, and then I transitioned the members into a virtual group called the Success Connection, taking it further so that we can meet people and work with people and support people all over the world. and get access to VIPs all over the world. So instead of doing in-person events, now everything is on Zoom.
Amazing. And so then you had that. So while you were doing this for free for a few years and building up that list, and then decided to do something with that list, how did you start monetizing? What was the shift there? Because I think a lot of people, when they're doing something that they really are passionate about, and then it comes to a point where it's like, I'm putting way more effort into this than I can continue to do, and I need to get some money for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a a big transition for a lot of people. And just like when we're doing something and we've been doing it, and then we're realizing even though we're getting paid, we're not getting paid what we should be getting paid. And each time, I think, is incrementally less difficult to up the game. But it's still, I think, at every level, it's a challenge. So, what was that like the first time where you realized I need to make some money? And how did you do that?
I'm kind of thinking that first event was a monetized event. So it was about renting space to each vendor. So it was like a trunk show. So you'd have like 20 vendors come in, and they'd pay for their space and also pay for a percentage of sales. And then I also did some nonprofit raffle fundraising on the side, but that was my donation. So there was always monetization, but it's about ramping it up and making it a whole higher level. So now, once there were membership dues in the network now, that transitioned. I think when I first started, it was like $100 a year or something. When I ended that, it was probably $497 a year. Now my dues are I think, I don't know what they are. Actually, I have to ask my bookkeeper. I think they're about $1,500 a year. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's really about, once you get to that level, it definitely is what you're comfortable with, because you're very fearful when you first raise your prices. Ask for a higher level, higher expectation from your clients. But once you get there, you're super comfortable, right? And then the next jump, again, you have to go through that whole confidence piece. It's like I have a 4-step signature system. And that first step is confidence. And that confidence has to do with pricing, but it also has to do with putting yourself out there and making sales calls, everything that comes along with confidence, about moving forward. The second step is the credibility. The third is connections. And the fourth is visibility. But that confidence piece, it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're just starting out doing a trunk show in your house, or if you're launching a network, or if you are doing a New York City mastermind, or wherever you're going, you still have that new level, new devil. Got to bring in that confidence piece and just go for it. I think the way you build confidence, some people wait to be confident. The way you build confidence is by executing. So by taking action and just making a commitment to do something, and then knowing that you have the capacity to learn it and figure it out, you're like, wow, all right, I'm confident.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, a lot of people will say, "Wow, you're so confident. You know all this stuff. Like, how do you do it?" And I'm like, "Well, I just do it." And I don't start like knowing all of the ins and outs. I start with an idea and say, "This is what I want." And then I do it, even though it's scary, even though it's challenging, even though I have to put in extra work to learn. And I have to be, I think, this is something I'd love your perspective on, but I have to be humble, I think is a good word for it, and introspective, and willing to receive constructive feedback. So I think there's a big difference between being willing to receive constructive feedback and being open to haters. I'm not open to haters, but whenever I do something, I'm really keen to find out what the experience is like for other people. And I'm also willing to go and look and say, Nicole, what really worked well, and what do you really need to tweak or get rid of, or what have you. And in fact, before we started this interview, it's kind of a demonstration of that. I've been podcasting now for a few years, and I've interviewed hundreds of wonderful and brilliant people, and I'm very confident at what I do. I know I'm a great podcaster. I know I'm great with podcast guesting. Like those are my sweet spots. And at the same time, I just received a couple days ago feedback after an interview from somebody who gave me helpful feedback. Again, it's not criticism, but she told me that when I mouth words, because I'm muted, so that my guests can't hear me when they're speaking, I mute myself. And I love getting into the story, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I love it. Or, I'll make these little comments, but who needs to hear that? Nobody. You don't need to hear it listening, and my guests don't need to hear it as we're speaking, because I want their message to be clear. So I mute myself. And so the feedback I got was, this was really confusing because I didn't know if I should stop talking or if you were trying to tell me something or what the case may be. So, 3 years in, I could just be like, whatever, that's a one-off. I've never gotten that before, and I don't even need to mention it. But I did. And Jaime, I mentioned it to you before we started because I want to make sure that I receive the feedback and think about, how can I make things better
Mhm.
for the people on the other end? And so I'd love to get your take on how, with confidence, how you get through those times, both when you're just starting with something and you have an idea and you have to almost fake the confidence in what you're doing, but I think hone the confidence in yourself that you will do it, as well as when you receive feedback. How do you recommend your clients, and how do you personally deal with that?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because just yesterday I had a training with my New York City Mastermind members on voice of customer. So I was teaching them that voice of customer is one of the most important things that you need to really tap into, because you can't make assumptions about what people's perception of you and your business is. You really have to know what they're thinking and what they're expecting. And when you really know that, you can make improvements to make it better. So it all ties together. And the way you get information is you can do surveys or focus groups or interviews, or read the reviews and the comments online, or have a suggestion box, whatever it is. But you really need to get inside their heads. And it's not just about who they are, but it's about what they are thinking and about you. What's their perception? So that's really key when you have a business. And as far as faking it till you make it kind of thing, I think you need to make decisions as your future self. So I hear a lot of people saying, well, I can't invest until I make money. I'm like, well, you're not going to make money until you invest. You have it backwards. And it's very scary, but that's where you pivot, is when you first have to, of course, make a good choice on where you're going to invest your money. But invest your money where it's going to have the most impact and move you forward fastest. That's what I tell people.
Awesome. So when it comes to the voice of customer, how do you sort through legitimately helpful feedback and rather versus just criticism?
Mm-hmm.
Or do
Yeah.
you?
Well, one person asked me that. They said, well, if you have a comment from one person's perspective is X, but everyone else thinks Y. You don't change your entire company based on one person, but you also don't dismiss it, because there's always some truth in everything that you hear, right? So I think
Yeah.
I think getting feedback from people who are your clients is key, but finding out from people who don't buy from you is even more valuable, because you find out where you can improve and what the market's really looking for.
Such a good point. I love that.
I'm so
So
glad.
so now you are also doing the other ventures, and Trisha Brook, who's been on the podcast earlier this year, you're partnered with her for Speakers Who Dare. You've got the mastermind. How did these things evolve? Both the individually led programs or mastermind, and how did you partner up and join
Mhm.
forces?
Okay. Well, initially, when Trisha first was starting out, believe it or not, she was my client. So I helped her launch her business back then, and now she's rocking and rolling. And during that kickoff of the big talk, she decided she wanted to get a license for TEDx because she wanted to have a stage for her clients to talk from. So she applied for a license and got TEDx Lincoln Square, and I asked her how I could help, and it turned into becoming her co-producer. So we did that for 2 years, and our collaboration was so successful that we got recognized by Lolly Daskell and written up in Inc. magazine, so that was amazing. But I'd never done a TEDx before. What the heck do I know about this? I'm like, sure, I'll try it. It's a challenge. It's awesome. It's going to be amazing to just create something so powerful. I love working with her. I knew it was going to be unbelievable, although I didn't see what the end of that road was exactly. Just go for it and build something amazing, see what happens, right? So that's how that started. And we did that for 2 years. And then we decided, we just kind of were talking about, okay, this is working really well. How can we make it even better? So that's when we decided to pivot and walk away from TED and do our own thing. Start a new platform from scratch, which is Speakers Who Dare. So we collaborated with Sway Media. Iman is the editor there. And we also got a channel on Binge Networks TV. And we have 20 speakers and 4 Broadway performances, and it's going to be this incredible event. So yeah, it's wild, right? So I love doing the whole events, anything with events, and everything has multiple layers that I do. You start with a seed of an idea, and then you turn it into like this onion with multiple layers of extraordinary things. So that's exciting. As far as why I did the mastermind, that was at the encouragement of my coach. And what I had to do in order to make that happen was to eliminate some things off my plate, because I was doing retreats in Florida and New York. Those are 2 of the things I've eliminated. And I love those events. The one in New York State, we were like swinging from ropes and jumping on trapezes. There's a documentary out on YouTube about it. Because it was all about pushing women to see what they're capable of. And the one in Florida was really about people overcoming fears and blocks about money and pricing and their value and setting clear goals and intentions for the year. So these events were really powerful. But both of those had to go away in order to focus on Speakers Who Dare and the new mastermind. I think I tweeted about this today about, because the owner and founder of Savor Beauty, Angela Gia Kim, she went through this similarly last year, because she has spas in New York State and New York City. She has a product line of beauty products, she started literally in her kitchen and now is in Nordstrom's and other stores. So it's this massive company now. And she also has the Savor Planner. Well, additionally, for years, she also ran Savor the Success, which is a women entrepreneur group where she had online mastermind circles and some meetings and things. And she had to let that go in order to open up space to really blow her business out of the water. So she led the charge with that. And now I'm following in her path and doing something similar. So because if you don't have space, you can't there's no room for anything to grow. It has to, whether it's a new adventure or even it's your calendar. So some people miss out on opportunities because their calendar is so jammed up, there's no space for anything. Like that article in Inc. with Lolly Daskell never would have happened if I didn't have space on my calendar, because she had bought a ticket to TEDx Lincoln Square the very first year. And I sent everyone an email saying, do you want to be a risk taker or a change maker on your name tag? She wrote back and said, I'm both. So I wrote her back and I said, I'll try to make that happen. And by the way, I'm so thrilled that you're going to be in our audience. I follow you on Twitter. I can't wait to meet you in person. She wrote back, I'm thrilled to be coming. Would you like a feature in Inc? I was like, yes. So she said, can you be on the phone in 45 minutes and pitch me ideas? So I had to text Trisha, find her, get her, set up the Zoom call, send the link to everyone, and be on with 5 pitch ideas, which we did, and we got the article. But if I wasn't available, if I was too busy running around doing things that didn't matter, that article never would have happened. I never would have started a relationship with her. I never would have had the article. Trisha and I wouldn't have been featured. So it's white space everywhere. Big things, biggest impact.
I love that. That's such a great reminder and lesson. And I love you sharing your experience of having that happen. Um, what are some other things that you do? Actually, I'm going to ask you more of a direct question. You have Trisha for a collaboration on some of your business ventures, but you still are yourself solo on the others. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, she is the big talk. She has the speaker salon and her mastermind and her podcast. And I have the Success Connection and the Above the Crowd. But together we have Speakers Who Dare.
Nice. So on your own side, do you have a team, or are you more of a solopreneur, or how do you manage it? I think it's important to number one, as you were saying, create that white space and recognize what does not need to just be on your calendar, what you don't need to pour your energy into because you want to make the highest impact, and enjoy it, right? But are there other things that you do to delegate or figure out how to create white space even when you are focused on a project?
Absolutely. Yes, you can't be doing everything that's required to run a business because you'll hit a ceiling. There's only so much time and energy that you have. So you definitely need a team. It doesn't need to be this full-time, massive in your office kind of team. It can be like mine, super easy. I have this skeleton crew of virtual assistants. So I'll give you a little rundown of what they do because each of them are very different. So you want to I like to spread the work out so that if one person leaves, the whole thing doesn't collapse to the ground. So I have a virtual assistant in Florida who will do things like creating tools for my mastermind or setting up new software or doing software research for me, all that online techie kind of stuff. I have another person who's local who will run errands for me, and mostly what she does is she makes phone calls, which a lot of those are personal. So I'll literally sit on my phone and dictate to her in a text, hey, can you call this doctor for that x-ray? Can you call this vet for this prescription? Can you call this one about when my delivery date is, blah, blah, blah. Or she'll go pick up my gift boxes. So she does all that stuff. So it's out of my head. I don't have to think about it, and it gets done. And then she sends me the answers and the appointment dates and things like that. I have another person who is a student who comes and helps me personally as well. So she'll show up and walk my dog and wash the dog bowls. She'll run errands for me. She'll do very little like light housekeeping, empty my dishwasher, run the vacuum, do some filing and shredding, and all that little stuff, which is, she'll come in here, bust through it in an hour and a half. It's like $20 and I have none of that to do. It's great. So it's not just the hour and a half that I gain, it's the mental energy and clarity. So boom. Trying to manage all those tasks in your head, forget it. The tool I use, which I resisted for a while because I'm quite a rebel, but structure really gives you freedom. So I finally gave in, and it is a life-changing thing. So I use Asana, which Natalie McNeil tells all her clients to use. So you literally just type a task, assign it to someone, give a deadline, and it will remind you and the person it's assigned to when it's due, and they can write notes in there and add files. And it tells you when they've completed it. So everything's in one place. Nothing gets lost through the cracks.
Amazing. So good. And yes, Asana as a project management tool is fantastic. I'm a big fan of Trello because I'm a bit more of visual and I like to move things. There's Basecamp. There's just so many other things. But I think what's really, really key, not that structure's not, it so is, and it is so true that the more you have, the more freedom you have. But I think what's really important also to highlight here is that your team of three has two folks that are helping you manage your personal life and only one helping you manage your business. And I think that most people look at having a housekeeper or, somebody that's going to pick up the kids from school and take them to soccer practice or go shopping or do meal prep, all of these things, I think a lot of people don't feel like they can hand over to anyone. They feel like they have to do it.
Hmm.
But it's like if you want to spend the time in your business, then by taking care of all those things, the doctor's calls and all of the little things that take up moments, but not just moments, not just minutes, but they take us off track. We get out of a focus zone from working on what's really it takes us. We're the only one who can do it. And we have just all that time of wasted energy going back and forth. And so I love that you bring that up. This is not something we often talk about on the show. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Let me just add that I do have people that support me with copywriting, web programming, graphic design, accounting. So there are other people in the work that support this company, but I love my personal assistants.
Yeah. But the consistent thing is like, because I think an accountant can, or no offense in your former career, but a bookkeeper or accountant or what have you, they have an important role, but it doesn't take a lot of time, right? It's like it's a piece of generally when we have a service-based business, especially when we're working directly with clients, it's not that we need a full-time accounting department like a larger
Mm-mm.
company does. So those things that we can outsource, and same with like graphic design and copywriting, it's not like we need them there every day.
Right.
Whereas a great assistant is so important to have your back every day.
Oh yeah. I don't
And
think I've wrapped a Christmas gift in years.
that's
That's,
amazing.
I'm like kind of embarrassed to say that, but it's awesome.
It is so awesome. And it's so like I think a lot of people would think, "Oh my gosh, how can I give up wrapping Christmas gifts?" And it's like then the other people would think, "Wait a minute, I can give up wrapping Christmas gifts? Amazing."
Hmm.
Because it's not something you need to do. So
Right.
yeah, thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah. If my daughter is hurt then I will go with her to the doctor. But if she needs her rubber bands changed on her braces and it's a 15-minute appointment, I don't need to be the one taking her. So that's kind of how I differentiate when I'm needed and when I'm not.
So good. And can you share shoot, there was something I was going to ask you as you were saying that as you were speaking before about the different things, but I think I was actually going to ask you more about specifics and you just gave it to us. So sorry about that.
That's
Um,
okay.
yeah, so good. No, there's something else, and I am at a loss right now for that question, but I'm sure it will come back. Oh, I know what it is now. It came back. Yay.
Hey.
Practices. Do you have any practices? Do you have any things that you do on a regular basis that help you to be more productive, more centered, more efficient, effective, whatever? Anything that you're doing on a day-to-day basis other than having other people take care of the stuff that you really don't need to take care of?
I think it's about planning and setting intentions. So I use the 5-minute journal every day. So it's about being grateful, of course, but then setting the intention for the day. What would make it great? And then at the end, reflecting back on why it was great and how it could have been slightly better, so that each time you're improving, but you're also purposeful. I gave that out as a gift to all of my attendees in my retreat in Florida. Another thing I do is I have a word of the year, like a lot of people are talking about these days, but I also have on my planners that I had printed up for my mastermind members and my success circles members, it's word of the week. So what is your intention and your energy around next week? So is it going to be care or is it going to be hammer time? Like what's the energy you want to bring into next week? And then you have focus for each day and then some tasks for at least the next 2 tasks. So breaking it out by what are the next 2 steps I need to take to move me forward towards this theme, focus, project, whatever. That way, at the end of the week, you've at least done 10 things forward and you're way further along than you were when you started the week.
I love it. Amazing. Well, we're coming to the end, and this has been such an interesting conversation and really valuable. And I hope my listeners are getting tons and tons out of it, taking notes, come back and listen again. You can also go to the show notes page at thenicolehollandshow.com. And if you want to tweet something out, all of the stuff is there. And we have actually a couple click to tweets, and you can leave a comment on the blog post as well and share your biggest takeaway from my conversation with Jaime. And yeah, thank you. This has just been so great. Before we wrap up, how can my listeners continue the conversation with you?
Well, I have a 3-day business building mini course on my website, jaimebroderick.com, which helps you really get clear and focused so that you take steps forward on the right road. So whether it's, I usually work with people who have had success in the past and now want to create something new. So I love to turn ideas into reality. So this little business building mini course kind of gives you that clarity. Look back at what you're really good at, where do you want to go next, and then move forward. And if you respond to my little prompts, I will answer you and give you some coaching online, no charge at all.
Amazing. Thank you for that.
Sure.
So before we say goodbye, any final words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I think it's about success in business or in anything in life is about making a decision and then making a commitment and just going for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.